Let me guess, another Range Rover with a $17,000 repair bill. Let's get started. And that is where you would be wrong. Range Rovers are not known to be the most reliable vehicles on earth, but they're also not the worst. We're going to take a look around this thing and talk about the things that are wrong and actually how hard they were to come by, but the fact that it really isn't going to be that expensive to get this thing back on the road. And you guys know I love Range Rovers. So before we get started, let's take a look at this thing. I really like this color. So there's the front of this vehicle. It is a 2014 Range Rover Sport Supercharged. I've actually had people tell me that looks like a Ford Explorer. There's a reason for that. So as we go down this side, you can see it's a little dusty. They've been driving on a dirt road or something, but it's not scratched or beat up. What would you call this? Is this burnt orange, Mrs. Wizard, or what is this?
Yeah, kind of like a burnt orange persimmon, something or other.
Yeah. And you can see on the license plate, this one's from a long ways away. It does have a tow hitch on it. You can see that down there. I won't want to tow too heavy with it, but it is possible to tow with it. It does have some nice looking wheels. Again, they're a little dusty as well. Very nice, very scratch free, very pretty. I love Range Rovers. Let's go ahead and pop the hood. So as you can see, this is the supercharged version. I've actually had someone comment to me before about these Range Rovers that they don't like them because they have those crappy British engines. But if you look under here, there's nothing British about the engine. It's a Ford Coyote V8. That's right, guys, a Ford V8. A 5-liter. It's supercharged, of course. So no, they're not crappy. No more crappier than your Ford truck or Mustang with a Coyote in it. It's also one of the reasons why I like these vehicles. We're only putting a supercharger belt and some minor other things in here. We're not doing anything major to the engine. They are known to have issues leaking coolant, like there's lots of plastic coolant pipes on these engines. But it would be nothing no worse than a Ford. So to say it's a Range Rover, it's worse, no, it's not. It's no worse than a Ford. This vehicle was built during the years of Ford ownership, just like Mrs. Wizard Discovery Sport. It had an EcoBoost 2.0, and if you guys watch that video, you see we did a water pump and a few other things with Ford Escape parts. It saved us a lot of money. We were able to get the other belt pretty easy, but to get the supercharger belt, I had to special order it. It's not something that's commonly stocked. It's one of those belts that's actually double-sided. It has grooves on both sides. So we got this to replace, but really there's nothing major under the hood that we're doing anyways. I'll go ahead and get the nice decorative cover put back on. There we go. And then we'll let Mrs. Wizard give you guys a tour of the interior, the beautiful Range Rover interior, which also has some more work we're doing in there.
So here we go, ladies. You can see we have the car in accessory mode, and you'll see it has 57,500 miles. So it has a lot of life left to it, and that is the gauge cluster up there is fully digital. There is nothing actually there. It is a big black screen, and it looks really cool. Imagine it's quite customizable as well, but we're not going to be going into that. We're going to go ahead and look at this dash. It is a very hard vinyl, and you can see there is a piece that is popped up, which Wizard will be explaining in just a few seconds. But again, no cracks, nothing going on. It is a dark gray, and as we move down, there's a lighter gray. This is the era that they were not putting much wood into the cars, but there is a lot of nice kind of accent, kind of a dimpled kind of design here. Definitely not a carbon fiber, but it definitely has an interesting design to it. Lots of controls in that center section, and again, that infotainment system would be controlling much of what you would be using in the car. The seats are a very nice dark gray leather, and they have a nice bolster on the side, keep you in that seat. Door cards are looking good, no major tears, a little bit of dust, But again, if there's dust on the outside, it's likely going to be dust on the inside as well. As we look at the back seat, you'll see that it has nice leather seats as well and has some nice high headrests to make sure that those passengers are riding in comfort as well. It does have a very large panoramic roof. And as we go ahead and slide back to our front, we do have some nice piano black design and elements added into here as well. As always, we end at that steering wheel. Here it says Range Rover. So it's looking good. I'm curious what this looks like on the underneath.
So yes, for those of you that are wondering, I do have an access mode. Before I lifted this, I used the suspension selection buttons. There's up and down. You hold down the down button for more than 1 second and it says on the screen it is now in access mode. You don't just go lifting these up in the air, you'll cause codes and cause issues. So it is in access mode. Some of the panels are missing because Magic Mike has been underneath diagnosing and checking it over, so let's get started. So here we are with our cross member, nice aluminum piece. Here is our sway bar. Amazingly, it is able to be disconnected between left and right, kind of like a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. So while you're on the trail, you can have more actuation or articulation, I should say, between the left and right. And when you're back on the highway, you can reconnect it again. You can see here's our steering rack. It's electric. There's no pressure lines or anything like that going to it. It is full electric. Here's our oil pan. Everything's nice and dry. Here's our radiator and a cooler. Everything's nice and dry there as well. Look at these beefy brakes, Mrs. Wizard.
They are quite impressive.
We are doing brake pads on this one all the way around, so I know those will be taken care of. CV boots are nice and dry. Strut is nice and dry. And you don't have to worry about power steering fluid leaking out of these because there is none. We'll go to this side. The boots are nice. The strut is dry. Brakes again are being done. Nothing's loose there, and of course nothing's leaking there. There's a big shield in the way here where our transmission is. Luckily there's nothing leaking there. Here's our catalytic converters that luckily haven't been stolen in the wonderful world we live in now. Here's our transfer case. Everything looks nice and dry there. Here we have a drive shaft with a U-joint. Everything's good there. Here is a front drive shaft. Everything looks good there as well. Exhaust down the center, and then we arrive at our rear differential. A little bit of layer of dust on it, but nothing serious. CV boots are good. Our shock is nice and dry. We're getting new pads in the rear. Our airbags are good. And also in the rear, we have a sway bar system that's able to disconnect. Right here, just like the front. Here's our airbag. CV boots are nice and dry. Nothing loose there. Here's our towing hitch. Looks like it was from the factory installed. It's all part of the framework there. So no leaks or anything serious going on. Let's go ahead and get this thing on the ground. So the list is not very long on this. As you saw just now underneath, there's no leaks. It's easy to say these things are pieces of junk. I would never have one. But Mrs. Wizard has kind of pondered the idea after she's done with her Maserati, maybe getting one. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get to that road to cross, or that bridge to cross, I should say. Some of the parts I had trouble getting on this are understandable. Mrs. Wizard was showing you the interior, and the center speaker was kind of disconnected all apart there. And the reason why is because it's blown. Those types of things you don't get at Rock Auto or anywhere. You have to go to the dealer. Here's a brand new center speaker. It even has a Land Rover sticker on it. The customer was concerned that the speaker's blown, it's making some rattling noises, and normally on some cars you have to pull the whole dash apart or a whole bunch of parts to get to the speaker, but on this particular model you just pop the grill up and there it is. Really is not that bad at all. So luckily it wasn't that big of a job, not that expensive. And I think that the speaker itself was around $100 or a little less than $100, so it really wasn't bad at all. The next thing that was tough to come by, and I've had this problem with multiple European makes, is the auxiliary battery. It's the small little motorcycle battery that's usually under the hood on a Mercedes, and this vehicle it's in the back. Here's one here. It's got the Land Rover stickers on it. We called the dealer. They said it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks if we can even get one. I've come across lots of Mercedes where manufacturers that used to have them aftermarket, they're gone. They don't even have them anymore. So you have to get a cross-reference, go to Amazon or eBay and find a motorcycle battery that has the same terminal, same setup, and it works perfectly. Luckily, I was able to find a supplier who had a stockpile of original Land Rover batteries. Well, at least original in style. This has a battery made in January of 2022, so it's recent of this year, which is good. Typically when these go bad, you get a warning on the dash, auxiliary battery, some issues going on, a lot of codes in different systems. It is time for a new one. On this one, being it's a 2014, the time is up on the auxiliary battery. So the belt, the speaker, and this little bitty battery were tough to come by. I was able to get them, and we're going to be able to take care of it for the customer. But like I said, it really isn't that big of a deal as far as the repair bill on this thing. It's not that bad at all. As parts are becoming harder to come by with the chip shortage and different supply issues we're having, there are some things on your cars that you will have to maybe go without, like the center speaker on here. Luckily I was able to get a new one from the dealership, but if it were to be very difficult to find, it may be that you just have to go without it for a while until you can find one. It wouldn't hurt anything to do without your speaker. Now the supercharger belt or the auxiliary battery, those need to be replaced when they fail, so those have to be done. So I definitely want to do a video on this Range Rover because it's going to be in and out of here and have everything taken care of, and it's not going to be no 10 and 12,000 huge giant bill, less than half that. But Range Rovers, when they do break, they're not cheap. They are expensive to fix, and it can be time consuming, just like you just saw, getting the parts, ordering them, and playing the parts waiting game. If you're curious what kind of tools that Magic Mike is using to work on this Range Rover, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there are more cars coming in as we speak. Thanks for watching.